lied to me, Mark," I shouted, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief. "You've been hiding everything this whole time. But what's worse is that Jake was in on it too." I saw Mark's face drop, the guilt written all over it. But before I could get another word out, Jake stepped forward, the cold smile never leaving his face. "Rachel, you've been played," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "You're just a pawn in a game much bigger than you." I could feel the truth sinking in, the weight of it crashing down on me. I wasn't just a victim. I was part of something darker, more dangerous, and now there was no turning back. Mark knew the whole time, and the price for finding out the truth? It could cost me everything. I found a letter hidden in my husband's coat, and it made my legs give way. I'll never forget that moment. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was left frozen in place, unable to breathe, let alone make sense of it. What I was about to uncover would change everything. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in Denver, Colorado. Our home nestled quietly in a middle-class neighborhood, just like so many others. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting long golden beams across the kitchen counter where I stood. I was cleaning up after Emma, our 7-year-old daughter who had just finished her cereal, leaving little milk stains on the table. I couldn't help but smile at how messy she always was, but it was the kind of mess I adored. It felt like life, vibrant and full of energy. Mark, my husband, had left for work early that day, a little earlier than usual. I didn't think much of it at the time. He was always busy with his tech startup, working long hours, something that had become a routine in the past few months. But as I grabbed his coat from the hallway closet to hang it up, something unusual caught my eye. In the deep pocket of his dark wool coat, I found an envelope, addressed to him in handwriting I didn't recognize. I froze for a second, my heart beating a little faster. I didn't know why, but the sight of it sent a wave of unease through me. Why would someone be sending him a letter? I ripped the envelope open, tearing it with a mix of curiosity and dread. The letter inside was folded neatly with a thick old-fashioned script. But as I read it, my blood ran cold. "You don't know what he's really capable of, do you? He's not who you think he is. Watch your back. He's in too deep." The words blurred together, a haze forming over my eyes as the implications sank in. I swallowed hard, trying to process it. What did this mean? Was it some sort of joke? Or was someone warning me about Mark? I felt my legs give way as I tried to sit down on the nearby couch. This wasn't something small. This wasn't just a random note. My thoughts raced and my stomach churned. What was he hiding from me? But before I could even start to make sense of it, the phone rang. "Rachel, we need to talk." Mark's voice crackled through the line. He sounded off, strange even. "I'll be home in a few hours. Please don't go through my stuff." My heart sunk. Was this about the letter? Was this his way of acknowledging it? But why did he sound so panicked? My fingers tightened around the letter. "Mark, what's going on?" I asked, feeling a knot tighten in my chest. "I'll explain everything. I just need you to wait for me. Don't do anything until I get there." But something told me, no, something screamed that this wasn't just about a letter. It was something bigger, and I was standing at the edge of a cliff about to fall into a world I couldn't even begin to understand. As I waited for him to return, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was falling apart. Mark had always been secretive about his work, but this was different. This wasn't about a late-night project or missed calls. The message in the letter had a weight to it, something menacing, something real. I kept looking at the letter, my hands shaking every time my eyes lingered on the words. "Watch your back." What did that even mean? And yet, I knew deep down that I couldn't just wait around and pretend everything was fine. This was my life and Mark's life at stake. There was too much writing on the truth. What was he hiding from me? The air in the room felt thick as I anxiously checked the clock. Minutes felt like hours. Every tick of the clock echoed in my mind as I wondered how Mark would explain this when he finally came home. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. How would you feel if you found a letter like this? Would you confront your partner or wait for them to explain? I glanced at my phone, which had been quiet for hours. No texts, no calls. I thought about calling him again, but stopped myself. I couldn't do this over the phone. I needed answers. But what if this was all leading somewhere even darker than I could imagine? Then the front door opened. I stood, my heart racing in my chest. Mark walked in, his eyes wild with something I couldn't quite place. "We need to talk," he said, his voice trembling. I could barely breathe. "I know," I whispered, but I still didn't know what was coming next. The air outside was cool, the late afternoon sky painted with shades of orange and pink as I stepped into the nearby park. The crunch of leaves beneath my feet barely registered in my mind. All I could think about was that letter. Who would send such a message to my husband? I kept trying to shake off the feeling of unease, but it clung to me like a shadow. I had arranged to meet Mark at the park. He insisted on an urgent talk. I hadn't been able to get in touch with him for the past hour, and I could feel the tension building. The letter was still burning a hole in my pocket, the paper crinkling against my leg as I walked. My heart was pounding. Each step closer to him only intensified my growing dread. When I finally spotted him sitting on a bench near the small pond, I stopped. He looked up at me, but his expression was off. He wasn't smiling like he usually did when he saw me. No warmth in his eyes, just emptiness. I took a deep breath and walked toward him, trying to steady myself. "Mark, what's going on?" I asked, trying to read his face. He motioned for me to sit beside him. I reluctantly sat, my body tense and my eyes scanning him for any sign of what was really happening. Mark shifted his weight, running his hand through his hair, a sign I knew all too well. He was trying to hide something. "I got your message," I began cautiously, "about the letter." He gave a short, forced laugh. "Rachel, it's nothing. Seriously, just business stuff. Nothing you need to worry about." Business stuff? I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue. The letter was far from business stuff. I could barely stand it. How could he be so calm? Didn't he realize I was drowning in confusion, trying to make sense of everything? "Mark, don't do this. You're acting so distant. What's going on?" I pressed, unable to hold back my frustration. That letter, it didn't sound like business stuff. For a second, I thought he might crack, tell me the truth. But then his eyes darkened, and he leaned back on the bench, his arms folded tightly across his chest. "I've been getting threats, okay?" Mark said abruptly, his voice tight. "I can't explain everything right now, but you have to trust me. Everything's going to be fine." I couldn't contain my disbelief. Threats? He was still avoiding the truth. Why wouldn't he just come clean? I could feel my stomach turn as a cold knot formed in my chest. This wasn't just about a random business deal or some casual threat. This was something bigger. "What kind of threats?" I asked quietly, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. Mark's eyes darted around, his unease palpable. "Rachel, just drop it, okay? I'm going out of town. Business. It'll all be over soon." I felt like I had been slapped. "You're leaving? Just like that?" "Yes," Mark said, his tone clipped. "I'll be back in a few days. Don't worry about it." But my heart wasn't listening to him. Every part of me screamed that something was wrong.
I couldn't even remember the last time he had said he was going out of town this suddenly. There was no mention of a trip, nothing about anything being urgent. His phone buzzed, interrupting the silence between us. He picked it up, glanced at it, and then abruptly stood. "I have to go, Rachel. I'll call you later, okay?" Without another word, he walked away, leaving me sitting there on the park bench, the cool breeze ruffling my hair as I stared after him in confusion. I couldn't even bring myself to move. Something in me, a feeling, deep down, told me this wasn't just about a business trip. I stood up, my legs shaky beneath me, still processing everything that had just happened. Mark's sudden departure, the threats, the cryptic letter, nothing about this situation felt right. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, trying to shield myself from the cold and the mounting sense of dread that seemed to grow by the second. What was going on? Why was Mark lying to me? When I got back home, Emma was already playing in the living room, her laughter a stark contrast to the tension in my mind. I hugged her tight, needing the comfort of her innocence. But as I held her, I couldn't stop thinking about the letter. I needed to know the truth, and I was running out of time. After Emma went to bed, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. Check Mark's phone. My stomach twisted as I grabbed it from the kitchen counter. It was almost too easy to unlock it. He never bothered to set a passcode. I scrolled through his messages, my heart racing with every swipe. His usual texts, business calls, and then something strange. An unfamiliar number kept popping up. There were missed calls, voicemail messages that he hadn't responded to, and some texts that made my board run cold. One message stood out, as clear as day. The words on the screen blurred as I read. "You can't hide forever. You'll pay for what you've done." My hand shook as I stared at the screen. This wasn't just a casual threat. It was personal, and it was clear that whoever was sending these messages was involved in something dark, something dangerous. I felt a sickening chill creep up my spine. My mind raced as I tried to connect the dots. Was this about the business deal Mark had been so secretive about? Or was this something worse? I couldn't wait for him to explain any longer. I needed answers now. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you trusted lied to you? What would you do if you found mysterious messages like this on your partner's phone? I was on the verge of making the call to the number on Mark's phone when it rang again. My heart stopped as I saw the unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. This time, I didn't hesitate. I answered, holding my breath. "Rachel, we need to talk, and Mark isn't coming back." This story is just beginning, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Hit that subscribe button now, or you'll be left in the dark about the shocking twists that are coming. You need to know what happens next, and you don't want to be the one who's left behind. Subscribe now to Voices of Auntie Grace.
That night, I barely slept. The weight of everything, the letter, the phone calls, Mark's lies, was too much to carry. I tossed and turned, the silence of the house only amplifying the chaos in my mind. I kept picturing Mark's face when he told me everything would be fine, but something in his eyes told me he was hiding the truth. But what truth? I woke up early, my head pounding, my body restless. Emma had already gone off to school, leaving me with a few quiet hours to think, or more accurately, to try and piece together the mess Mark had left behind. I couldn't ignore it any longer. His phone, those cryptic messages, the threats. If I didn't do something now, I would never get answers. I felt a gnawing urgency. I had to understand what was happening before it was too late. As soon as Emma left for school, I sat down at the kitchen table with Mark's phone again. This time, I wasn't just scrolling through messages. I was determined to uncover whatever he'd been hiding. My heart raced with every swipe of the screen, my fingers trembling slightly. There were dozens of messages from an unknown number, each one more disturbing than the last. I couldn't believe my eyes. The messages weren't just about threats. They were personal. They spoke of money, of deals Mark had made that he never mentioned to me. Deals with people I couldn't even begin to understand. I'm getting tired of this. Finish the deal. It's the only way to make things right. You'll pay one way or another. Do what we agreed on or we'll take it from you. My head spun as I read through them. I tried to process the information, but the more I read, the more questions piled up. Why hadn't Mark told me about any of this? Why hadn't he been honest? How deep was he involved in all of this? But then, just as I was about to scroll further, one message stood out. It was different from the others. It wasn't a threat or demand. It was a conversation. I need to talk to you. I can't keep doing this. You're in too deep, Mark. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. The name signed at the bottom sent a jolt through me. Sophie Bennett? I froze. Sophie Bennett? Who was she? And why was she so involved with Mark? As far as I knew, she was just a colleague he mentioned once or twice at a dinner party. But these messages? They painted a much darker picture. I kept reading. As I scrolled through more text, I found one final message, sent only a few days ago. I don't know how much longer I can keep this secret. You need to tell Rachel before it's too late. It's not just the business anymore. People are going to get hurt. I felt my chest tighten. The words echoed in my mind. It's not just the business anymore. What did she mean? What was Sophie trying to say? And why was Mark keeping all of this from me? I could feel my breath quicken, the panic starting to set in. I had to confront Mark. I couldn't sit in the dark any longer, hoping he would tell me the truth. But something told me that even if I did confront him, I still wouldn't have all the answers. It was late afternoon when I finally gathered the courage to call Sophie. I knew this was risky, but I needed to hear the truth from her. I had no idea what she knew, but something told me she wasn't just an innocent bystander in all this. She had to know more than she was letting on. The phone rang, and my heart thudded in my chest. I could feel the weight of the conversation hanging over me. When she picked up, I introduced myself. Her voice was calm at first, but there was an edge to it. She knew why I was calling. I need to know what's going on, Sophie. Mark, he's hiding something from me. I found the messages. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then finally she spoke. Rachel, I don't know how to say this, but you need to know the truth. Mark, he's been involved with some dangerous people you don't want to know about. I tried to help him, but he's too deep in it now. I'm scared for him, Rachel. I'm scared for you. I could feel the blood draining from my face as I processed her words. Dangerous people? What kind of mess had Mark gotten himself into? Why didn't he tell me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sophie sighed. He didn't want you to know. He thought you'd leave him. He was trying to protect you, but now he's in over his head. If you want to help him, you need to get him out before it's too late. I hung up the phone, my mind spinning with everything Sophie had just said. I had always trusted Mark, but now I didn't know who he really was. Sophie's words played over and over in my head. He's in too deep. I couldn't sit back anymore. I had to confront Mark, but first I needed more answers. I wasn't just going to wait around like before. I couldn't live in this limbo any longer, unsure of where my marriage stood, unsure of who Mark was. I needed to find out everything, the truth, no matter how dark it was. But how would I even begin? Mark was still out of town, and I was left with nothing but these cryptic messages and the terrifying feeling that something had gone horribly wrong. I stared at my phone, fingers trembling. I need to go to Los Angeles.
Sophie had mentioned a hotel there, a place Mark had been before things got this bad. Maybe that's where I could find him. Maybe that's where I'd finally uncover the truth. I grabbed my purse, feeling the coldness of the decision settle in my chest. This was no longer just about me or Mark. This was about survival, and I wasn't going to wait around any longer. Have you ever felt completely blindsided by someone you thought you knew? What would you do if you found out your partner had been lying to you about something like this? Drop a comment below and tell me what you think I should do next. The flight to Los Angeles was long, and as I sat on the plane, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into something I couldn't control. I had no idea what I would find when I got there, but I was ready to face it, because if I didn't, I might never find out what was really going on. But as the plane touched down, my phone buzzed with a new message. "Stay away, Rachel. It's too late." This story is only getting started, and you don't want to miss the next shocking turn. Trust me, you'll want to be here for the next twist.
Los Angeles was overwhelming. The noise, the traffic, the smog, it all seemed to swirl around me like I was standing at the eye of a storm. As soon as the plane touched down, I felt the weight of everything pressing on me. I was about to walk into the unknown, to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I had spent the entire flight in a daze, trying to make sense of what I had learned about Mark. The more I'd pieced together the fragments of information, the more I realized just how little I truly knew about him. What was his involvement with Sophie? And these dangerous people she had mentioned? Who were they? I had a hotel address, a name, and a promise from Sophie that I would find Mark there. It felt like a lifetime ago that I was a stay-at-home mom, living a quiet life in Denver. Now, I was chasing a man I didn't even recognize in a city where I was completely alone. But one thing was certain, I wasn't turning back. By the time I arrived at the hotel in Los Angeles, the sun had already set, casting the city in an eerie orange glow. I wasn't sure what I expected, but certainly not this, an upscale hotel with glossy floors and an air of mystery hanging over it. I checked in under my name, avoiding eye contact with the receptionist. Sophie had given me a room number, but as I stood in front of the door, my heart pounded in my chest. This was it. Whatever happened next, I would finally learn the truth about what Mark had been hiding. I knocked twice before pushing the door open. Sophie was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, staring out the window. She didn't turn around immediately, but when she did, her face was pale, her eyes swollen as if she'd been crying. "Rachel," she whispered. Her voice was strained, a mix of fear and guilt. "I didn't think you'd actually come. I wasn't sure you'd believe me." "Believe you?" I asked, stepping inside. "You've been involved with Mark for months now, Sophie. I don't know who I should trust anymore, but I need to know what's going on. I can't keep living like this, in the dark. I need answers." She sat up straight and nodded, then looked down at her hands as if trying to find the right words. After a long pause, she spoke again, her voice trembling. "Mark's been trying to get out for a while now. Get out of a deal he made with some dangerous people who don't care about anyone but themselves. He's been lying to you, Rachel. I wish I could have told you sooner, but if I had, I don't think any of us would be here right now." I felt the floor beneath me tilt. My vision blurred, the weight of her words sinking in. Dangerous people. It wasn't just a business deal gone wrong. It was something far darker. My mind raced with questions, but before I could speak, Sophie continued. "He's owed them a lot of money, and they don't care who gets hurt. I don't think Mark understands how far they'll go to get what they want. He's been in too deep for too long." I swallowed, trying to steady my breath. "What are you telling me, Sophie? Why didn't he tell me?
I'm his wife. I deserve to know." "I know, but he didn't want to involve you. He thought it was just a matter of time before he could fix everything. He didn't want you to get hurt. But now, I don't know if he can get out of this. The people he's dealing with, they're not forgiving, and if he doesn't pay them back soon, they're going to come after him." I stared at Sophie, trying to process what she was saying. Why hadn't Mark told me this? Why hadn't he confided in me, even for my own safety? Then Sophie stood up suddenly, her face pale, her hands shaking as she walked toward the window. "There's more," she whispered, barely audible. "Mark's been keeping something from you, something he didn't want you to know. He thought he could handle it, but now I'm afraid it's too late." "What?" I asked, my voice trembling. Sophie's eyes met mine, and I could see the fear in them. "He's mixed up with a criminal syndicate. It's not just money. They're blackmailing him. They've threatened him and you. And worse, Rachel, they know about you. They've seen you, watched you." "No, this isn't possible," I said, almost to myself. But deep down, I knew she was right. The pieces were falling into place now. The letter, the threats, everything. I wanted to scream, to rage at Mark for dragging me into this nightmare, but I was too tired, too broken. Sophie seemed to sense my turmoil, and she looked at me with sympathy. "Rachel, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, but Mark's in trouble, and if you don't understand what's going on, if you don't help him, you might lose him forever." Just as I was about to speak, my phone buzzed in my pocket. My heart leapt into my throat. I pulled it out, my hands trembling as I saw Mark's name flash across the screen. Without hesitation, I answered, "Mark? Where are you? What's going on?" But instead of answering, all I heard was static. Then his voice, barely audible, came through. "Rachel, don't come any closer. They're coming for me. They're coming for you too. Stay away." My breath caught in my throat. The line went dead. The call ended with a sharp click, leaving only silence in its wake. I looked up at Sophie, fear and anger mixing in my chest. "What does he mean, Sophie? Who's coming for him? For me?" Sophie's face paled even more, and she nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "I'm sorry, Rachel. I tried to protect him. I don't know what to do anymore." The truth had finally hit me. Mark had been keeping secrets, huge ones, from the very beginning, and now the situation was spiraling beyond my control. Sophie's warning echoed in my mind. If you don't help him, you might lose him forever. I had no idea what I was going to do, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let him go down without a fight. As I grabbed my jacket, ready to leave Sophie's room, a sudden sound from the hallway stopped me dead in my tracks. Footsteps. Loud, deliberate steps. Someone was coming. You don't want to miss what happens next. The danger is escalating and the shocking twists just keep coming. Make sure to subscribe to Voices of Auntie Grace because you won't want to be left behind as the truth comes crashing down. I couldn't breathe. The footsteps outside the hotel room door were getting louder, and I froze in place. Who was out there? Was it Mark? Or someone who meant to hurt him? Or worse, hurt me? I could feel the adrenaline rush through my veins as I turned to Sophie, my mind racing. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Sophie nodded, her face pale as she stood near the window, peering through the blinds. "We need to leave. Now." Her voice was laced with panic, and for the first time, I saw how truly frightened she was. This wasn't just a business deal gone wrong. This was life or death. The weight of it all crashed down on me, and I realized how deep Mark had gone into a world that could swallow us both whole. I grabbed my purse, my heart hammering in my chest. "Where's Mark? I need to find him."
I can't just stand here and do nothing anymore. He's in trouble. I don't know where he is, Sophie replied, her voice tight. But I can tell you this, whoever is after him, they won't stop until they get what they want. We have to move fast. I didn't wait for her to say anything more. Without another word, I rushed out of the room, my mind set on one thing: finding Mark. I couldn't just sit by and let him spiral deeper into whatever mess he had created. I loved him, even with all the secrets, and I wasn't about to lose him. Not like this. Sophie and I hurried out of the hotel, making sure no one saw us leave. The streets of Los Angeles felt colder now, darker, even though it was still early evening. It was like the city itself was hiding something, covering up the truth in a way that made everything feel more dangerous. We went straight to the car, and I didn't care where we were going, just away from the hotel, away from whatever was about to happen there. Sophie drove, her knuckles white against the wheel, but I could see the fear in her eyes too. We were both running, though neither of us knew from what exactly. I have to find him, I repeated, staring out the window at the endless stretch of city lights. Do you have any idea where he might be? Any other places he's been? Anything? Sophie's grip on the wheel tightened. I don't know, Rachel, but there's one place. It's a long shot. Mark mentioned it once, just casually. A warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It could be where they're holding him, or maybe where they're making him do whatever they want. My stomach dropped. A warehouse? Why had he never mentioned it before? Was that where this dangerous deal had been made? Was this where Mark had gone when he kept disappearing? I turned to Sophie, my voice shaky. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? I didn't want to drag you into this, she said, her voice cracking. I never thought it would get this far. As we drove through the streets of Los Angeles, the urgency of the situation settled in my bones. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. It was about survival. If I didn't act now, if we didn't find him, things could end very badly, and I wasn't about to let that happen. The drive felt endless. Sophie was speeding now, her eyes focused on the road, and I could feel the weight of every passing minute. When we finally pulled up to the warehouse, the dark, shadowed building loomed in front of us like some twisted reminder of everything that had gone wrong. It looked abandoned, but I knew better now. Nothing about Mark's life, nothing about the situation was ever simple. Sophie and I parked the car a few blocks away and quietly made our way toward the warehouse. The closer we got, the more I could feel the tension rising in the air. What were we walking into? Sophie looked at me, her face full of fear and regret. I should have told you everything sooner. You deserve the truth, Rachel. I just didn't want to be the one to shatter your world. What do you mean by that? I asked, my voice trembling. I was confused. Sophie had been hiding something, but what? What else could she possibly have been keeping from me? She hesitated, then took a deep breath. Mark's been lying to you about more than just business. This syndicate, they're not just after money. They're after something else, something they think Mark has. I tried to help him get out of it, but he got too deep. Now I'm afraid it's already too late. I stopped walking, my heart racing as I tried to process her words. What could they possibly want from him? Sophie glanced around nervously. Rachel, I wish I could explain it all now, but I can't. The people we're dealing with, they're not just criminals. They have connections, power. If you're not careful, they'll take everything from you, from both of us. I couldn't breathe. The weight of Sophie's confession hung in the air, and I felt my world shift beneath my feet. All of this, everything I thought I knew about Mark, had been a lie, and now I was about to face the consequences of that lie head on. We reached the entrance of the warehouse. It was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. Sophie motioned for me to stay low as we approached the door. She checked her phone, then nodded. There's a small crew inside.
They're waiting for Mark. I don't know how many of them are armed, but I'm guessing all of them are. My breath caught in my throat. Armed? I had no choice. I couldn't turn back now. I couldn't let Mark face this alone, no matter what secrets he had been hiding from me. I wasn't about to be the one to sit by and let his life and mine fall apart. I reached for the door handle, feeling my heart pound in my chest as I pushed it open. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. The distant sound of voices echoed through the space, and I could hear the low hum of tension in the air. I took one last look at Sophie before stepping in, the cold chill of fear washing over me. Mark was there, sitting at a table, his face hard with worry as he spoke to someone I couldn't see. But before I could take another step, a voice rang out from the darkness. "Rachel, don't come any closer." The voice was unmistakable. It was Mark's, but he sounded different, panicked, urgent. I froze, not knowing what to do next. Was this the moment I had been dreading? The moment where everything changed forever? The truth is finally coming to light, but it's only going to get more dangerous from here. Will Rachel get Mark out in time? What will happen next? You have to know. Don't wait for the next twist. Subscribe to Voices of Auntie Grace now so you're not left hanging when the next shocking reveal happens.
The air inside the warehouse felt heavy, thick with tension. My eyes flicked from shadow to shadow, heart pounding in my chest as I listened to Mark's voice echo from the back. I wasn't ready for this. I couldn't be. "Rachel, don't come any closer," Mark's voice barked from behind a stack of crates. It was desperate, almost pleading, but with a certain edge of finality that shook me to my core. He wasn't just worried, he was afraid of what might happen to me if I kept moving forward. I hesitated for a moment, my feet frozen in place. The voices around me grew louder as I strained to hear what was going on. There was a low murmur of conversation, but I couldn't make out the words. The sense of urgency was suffocating. What had I walked into? Sophie, who had been quietly following behind me, pulled me back slightly, her eyes wide with panic. She was trembling, and her usual confident demeanor was gone. "Rachel, we need to go, now." She was practically whispering, but I could see the terror in her eyes. But I couldn't leave. Not now. Not after everything I had learned. I wasn't running anymore. I took a step forward, ignoring Sophie's quiet pleas to stop. "Mark," I called out, my voice shaky but loud enough for him to hear. "Mark, it's me. I'm here." There was a long pause. I could feel my heart beat in my throat, the silence stretching endlessly, until finally Mark's figure emerged from behind the crates. He was pale, his hands raised slightly in a defensive stance, as if ready to shield himself. His eyes locked onto mine, and I could see the exhaustion on his face, mixed with something darker, a fear that made my stomach turn. "Rachel," he muttered again, his voice cracking, "what are you doing here? I told you to stay away." "I'm here for you, Mark. I'm not going to let you do this alone. I know what you've been hiding from me. You need to come home. This ends tonight." He looked away for a moment, running his hand through his hair in frustration. I could see the guilt on his face, but also something else. Defeat. His shoulders slumped slightly, and he stepped closer to me, his eyes flickering to the shadows behind him, where I could sense the presence of others watching us. "We can't just walk away from this, Rachel. These people, this whole situation, it's bigger than both of us. If we don't finish this deal, it's over. For me, for you, for everyone." I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the sharp pang of betrayal that cut through me at his words. I had to focus. I had to stay strong. I had to understand what he meant by this deal, because right now, all I could see was a man I thought I knew completely falling apart before me. Mark led me through the darkened warehouse, past piles of boxes and equipment, toward a long steel table that stood at the center of the space. There were a few men standing around it, all wearing dark clothes, their faces obscured by shadows.
The air smelled of dust and metal. It felt cold, like the world was shutting us out. A man with a sharp jawline and a cold expression stepped forward. His voice was calm but dangerous, with a hint of amusement, like he was watching something unfold that was far beyond my understanding. "Mark," the man said, his voice low, "we've been waiting." I watched as Mark nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. There was something cold in his eyes now, an icy resolve that wasn't there before. It was like he had already accepted the consequences of what he had done. "I know," Mark replied. "Let's get this over with." I turned to him, my chest tight. "Mark, what's going on? What is this? You have to tell me what's happening." My voice trembled, but I refused to back down. "You've been hiding everything from me. I need the truth." He didn't look at me, didn't answer. Instead, he motioned for me to stay quiet. "It's too late for explanations, Rachel. You wouldn't understand, but I'll handle it. I promised you I would." Handle it? He was talking about something much bigger than either of us, and I was done standing on the sidelines. Before I could protest, Raymond, I learned his name was, gave a sharp nod. "We're waiting, Mark. We're not here to waste time." Raymond's men moved toward the table, and I could see that the deal was about to be made. I didn't know exactly what they wanted from Mark, but I knew it wasn't just money. It was something else, something dangerous. Mark stepped forward, facing Raymond. I could see how his shoulders tightened, his jaw clenched, but there was no turning back. There was no way out of this, at least not without consequences. Raymond's voice cut through the silence. "You've made your choices, Mark. Now we make ours." I watched helplessly as the deal started unfolding, but I could feel a cold sweat break out across my forehead. Mark was out of his depth, and now I was too. The stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. Just as I thought the deal was going to be finalized, a figure emerged from the shadows. Jake Crawford. I had heard Mark mention him before, but I didn't know who he was. But now, as Jake stepped forward, his hand clutching a gun, I realized just how much I didn't know. He looked at Mark, a sly smile on his face that sent chills down my spine. "You've been playing both sides, Mark," Jake said, his voice full of mockery. "You thought you could get away with this, didn't you?" Mark's face darkened, and I could see the weight of betrayal in his eyes. He tried to say something, but Jake wasn't having it. "Rachel," Jake said, turning toward me, "you've been kept in the dark for too long. Your husband isn't the man you think he is. He's been playing a dangerous game. And you, well, you've just become part of it." My world started to spin. Jake had been working with Mark this whole time? Had he been manipulating me too? Was I just a pawn in whatever twisted game they were playing? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My vision blurred as Jake moved toward Mark, and for the first time I saw the true weight of the life Mark had been hiding from me. As Jake raised the gun, the room seemed to freeze. My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear the voices around me. I didn't know if I was about to lose Mark or if I was about to lose everything. The gun clicked, and then everything went dark. Things just took a deadly turn. Will Rachel make it out alive? Will she finally uncover the truth? Don't miss the next shocking chapter. Subscribe now to Voices of Auntie Grace so you don't get left behind when everything unravels.
My eyes shot open, and for a second, I wasn't sure if I was still alive. The deafening sound of silence wrapped around me, and my chest felt tight, like I was struggling to breathe. But then I heard a faint shuffle of movement, and I realized I was still standing, still in the warehouse. The gunshot had never come, but what had happened? Why was everything so still? My head was spinning. Mark, Jake, Raymond, they were all around me, but everything felt so far away, like I was drowning in a sea of confusion. The last thing I remembered was Jake's gun raised toward Mark. Then there was a flash, bright, blinding, and suddenly everything went dark. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog from my mind. My hands were trembling as I placed them on the cold floor to steady myself. What was happening? Had I been knocked out? Had I been saved? But when my eyes focused, I saw him. Mark. He was kneeling on the ground, his hands raised in surrender, his face pale with fear, but also something else. Guilt. A look of desperation that I couldn't quite read. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. I was furious, heartbroken, betrayed. How could he let it go this far? How could he keep me in the dark about all of this? I was fighting for him, trying to save him, and he had been playing me this entire time. "You don't have to do this, Rachel," Mark said, his voice barely above a whisper. He was still on his knees, but his eyes were locked on mine. "You shouldn't have come here." Shouldn't have come here? My hands clenched into fists as I took a step forward, my feet dragging with each move. I wasn't afraid anymore, not of the gun, not of the people standing around me. What terrified me now was that the man I thought I knew, the man I loved, had been lying to me from the very beginning. "You lied to me, Mark. You've been lying to me for months, about everything. You put me in danger. Us in danger because you couldn't be honest with me. Why?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced over his shoulder at Raymond and Jake, who were both standing by the table, their expressions unreadable. I could tell they were waiting for something. But what? Was this the moment Mark was going to betray me too? Was he going to walk away from me as well? "Rachel," he said, his voice cracking, "I never wanted you involved. I never wanted any of this, but I had no choice." I cut him off. Who? Who are they, Mark? My voice shook, my eyes brimming with anger. What have you done? He took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping as he finally looked up at me. There was a long pause before he spoke again, as if the weight of everything he'd kept secret was now crashing down on him. "They're not just a syndicate, Rachel. They're people who have control over everything. My business, my life, my freedom. They're not just criminals. They've got connections, people who can make you disappear without a trace. I've been trying to get out for so long, but they won't let me. And now they're coming for both of us." I felt a chill run down my spine. Disappear without a trace? This wasn't just about money. This wasn't a normal criminal deal. This was something far more dangerous, and Mark was too deep to get out of it. "You never told me this," I shouted. "You never told me anything. You left me in the dark, and now we're both in this mess. Do you think I can just walk away from this? Do you think it's that easy?" He didn't answer. His eyes dropped to the floor, and I saw the same guilt, the same fear I had seen before. He was guilty, not only of hiding the truth from me, but of dragging me into this mess without any explanation. He had underestimated how far I was willing to go for the truth. Suddenly, Jake stepped forward, his hand resting on the gun that was still in his grip. The same cold smile from before creeped across his face. "I told you, Mark, you can't run from this. You've played the game, and now it's time to pay the price." Jake! My mind whirled with disbelief. He had been in on this from the start?
He had manipulated me, played me into trusting him when he was just another piece in this sick, twisted game. "Jake," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "you were working with him all along?" Jake's grin widened. "Of course. Mark was always my partner in crime. You just didn't know it." I felt my stomach drop. I had trusted him. I had believed his lies. And now everything, every ounce of trust I had in both Mark and Jake was shattered. "You lied to me too," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "Both of you. But you'll pay for this. You both will." But just as I was about to say something more, I heard Raymond speak up. "Enough." His voice was cold, final. "Jake, you've made your point. Mark's already made his decision. It's time to finish this." I looked at Mark, his face a mixture of guilt and resignation. He had already given up. He had already accepted that this was the end for him, and for me. But I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to let them win. Raymond stepped forward, a menacing figure who seemed to loom over us. He said, "Rachel, this is your last chance. If you walk away now, we'll let you go. But if you stay, if you keep pushing, well, let's just say it won't end well for you." I could feel the tension thickening in the air. This was it. The moment where everything I had fought for was about to be decided. I looked at Mark one last time, the man who had dragged me into this nightmare, and made a decision. "I'm not walking away," I said, my voice steady, despite the fear coursing through me. "I'm done running. I'm going to make sure you both pay for everything." I could feel every eye on me as I stood there, the weight of the world on my shoulders. I wasn't sure how this was going to end, but one thing was clear. I wasn't backing down. The final showdown is just around the corner, and the truth is about to hit like a freight train. Will Rachel make it out alive, or will Mark's betrayal be her undoing? There's so much more to uncover, and you don't want to miss it. Hit that subscribe button now to Voices of Auntie Grace. Trust me, you won't want to be left behind when everything unravels. The most shocking twist is still to come, so make sure you're here for it.